Jason wakes up behind a wrecked car, barely breathing, the warning on his HUD pulsing at 1% health. Smoke drifts over the street as he slowly pushes himself up, holding his side to keep steady. The sounds of distant sirens echo through the neighborhood. He leans against the metal frame and tries to catch his breath. Lucia's voice crackles through his radio, calm but urgent. She tells him enemies are still sweeping the area and he needs to stay low. Jason doesn't speak, just nods silently as he crouches and moves into a narrow alley. Trash bins line the walls. Water drips from broken pipes above him. Two NPCs argue near the corner about a job gone wrong, their voices bouncing off the walls. Jason stops moving the moment he hears tires sliding on wet pavement. A patrol car rolls by the alley entrance, its spotlight scanning the area. The beam stretches across walls and trash before slowly turning toward Jason's direction. He freezes completely, barely breathing, waiting for the light to pass. The spotlight hovers for a tense second, then moves on. Once the patrol car drives away, Jason slips deeper into the alley, staying close to shadows as he plans his next move, knowing one wrong step could finish him. Jason limps into the abandoned shop, pushing the dusty door just wide enough to slip through. His weakened steps knock over a tin can on the floor. The metallic clatter echoes through the empty space. He freezes, hearing a guard outside stop walking. The guard mutters softly and starts moving toward the entrance. Jason crouches behind a tall shelf stacked with old boxes. His breath stays shallow as the guard's footsteps get closer, each step heavier than the last. Lucia's voice cuts through the tension, low and controlled, telling him she has eyes on the guard through a nearby security camera. She explains that the guard is checking the noise but hasn't seen anything yet. Jason stays perfectly still as the guard's shadow stretches across the floor. After a moment, the guard turns away, deciding it was nothing. Lucia signals him to move now. Jason slips across the shop, careful not to disturb anything else. Dust floats in the light coming through broken windows. He reaches the back exit and eases it open just enough to slide through. Outside, two NPCs stand near a stack of crates. They talk about a huge delivery coming later tonight, something too important to mess up. Jason stays hidden until they walk off, then quietly moves down the alley, storing the information as a clue for what's coming next. Jason spots a damaged scooter leaning against a wall, its paint scratched and its engine coughing smoke. It's the only vehicle small enough to avoid attention. He glances around, then quickly mounts it and twists the handle. The engine sputters, then roars loud enough to echo between buildings. He pulls onto the street, keeping his head low as he blends into light traffic. A gang SUV turns the corner behind him. Its headlights brighten as the driver locks eyes on him. The SUV accelerates. Jason leans forward and pushes the scooter to its limit. Cars rush past on both sides. He squeezes between two vans, sparks flying from the scooter's side as it scrapes a bumper. Horns blare, tires screech, and the SUV forces its way through the lane, knocking smaller cars aside. Lucia's voice breaks through the chaos, telling him the gang is tracking him and she's searching for a way to block their route. Jason swerves around a delivery truck, missing it by inches. The SUV closes in, bumping the rear wheel of the scooter. Jason steadies himself and shoots down a narrow boulevard, weaving through traffic as pedestrians scatter from the crosswalk. Lucia warns him to stay straight. She triggers the control for the bridge ahead, lowering the traffic barrier. Jason ducks low as the metal arm descends. The scooter slides under with barely enough space. The SUV tries to follow, but the barrier slams down across its hood. The vehicle crashes, smoke and debris exploding from the impact. Jason doesn't look back. He rides across the bridge with the last strength he has, gaining a small but critical lead. Jason reaches the closed pharmacy just as the street quiets down. The lights inside are off, and the metal shutters are halfway lowered. He crouches beside the door and studies the lock. His hands move slowly, careful not to make a sound. The pick clicks softly, then the door loosens. He slips inside, letting it close behind him without shaking the frame. The air smells of dust and old medicine. Shelves stand in long rows, and faint red lights blink on the ceiling. As he takes a step forward, a motion sensor chirps. Thin beams stretch across the room in shifting patterns. He lowers himself to the floor and crawls beneath the first beam. His elbows slide against smooth tiles while the lights sweep above him. He pauses when one beam shifts dangerously close, waits, then continues under the next one. He reaches the counter and opens a small cabinet. A first aid kit sits inside, sealed but aged. He unwraps it quickly and uses the contents, but the weak stimulants barely help. His health meter stays locked at 1%. He sighs quietly and closes the kit, knowing he has no choice but to keep moving. Footsteps echo from the back door. Two workers step inside, carrying flashlights and talking in low voices. They mention tonight's shift change and a hidden supply run for a cartel hideout on the East Docks. Jason stays behind the counter, unmoving. The workers set down a box, talk a little more, then leave through the same door. Once the sound fades, Jason rises carefully, avoiding the beams again on his way out. He slips through the front door and disappears into the alley, holding onto the new clue he didn't expect to find. Jason approaches the docks under dim industrial lights, the water below shifting with quiet waves. He stays low behind stacked crates while guards move along the pier, unloading heavy metal containers from a cargo ship. Their radios crackle with short, tense messages. Jason edges forward whenever they turn away, keeping his steps silent on the wooden planks. Lucia contacts him with a whisper, saying she found access to the dock's crane controls. She tells him to wait. Jason freezes behind a crate as the crane suddenly jolts. A massive container swings, then drops onto the far side of the pier with a thunderous crash. Metal echoes across the water. Guards shout and run toward the noise, leaving their positions wide open. Jason uses the distraction immediately. He slips through a side door of the warehouse, moving past rolling carts and stacked pallets. The interior is dim, lit by scattered bulbs hanging from high beams. He scans a table cluttered with documents and spots a folded map. He opens it and studies the markings. A hand-drawn route highlights an underground tunnel system running beneath the city. He memorized key points and folds it back exactly how he found it. A sudden metal clink breaks the silence. Jason turns to see a guard at the doorway, staring directly at him. The guard reaches for his radio. Jason dashes deeper into the warehouse as the guard shouts for backup. Boots hammer against the floor behind him. Jason pushes through a side exit, knocking over a rolling cart to slow the pursuit, and sprints toward the shadows of the dockyard, the chase now fully underway. Jason plunges into the dark tunnels, the smell of damp concrete and oil filling his nose. The sound of heavy boots echoes behind him. He presses himself against the walls, letting shadows swallow him as he moves quickly but carefully. His heart pounds with every footstep from the guards drawing nearer. He ducks into a narrow side passage, squeezing through rusted pipes just wide enough for his body. The metal clangs softly as he shifts, but the sound is lost among the tunnel's natural echoes. He pauses when a maintenance worker rounds a corner, carrying a toolbox. Jason freezes, then slides behind a cart piled with debris. The worker stops, frowns, and walks past, none the wiser. Lucia's voice comes through his earpiece, calm and precise. She tells him she has unlocked an emergency exit up ahead. Jason doesn't hesitate. He darts through the tunnels, staying close to the walls, avoiding puddles and loose debris. The guards' shouts grow louder, their flashlights cutting across the walls. Just as the pursuing guards reach the last corner, Jason bursts through a narrow door Lucia unlocked. He steps onto a side corridor bathed in pale light, the sounds of the tunnel fading behind him. He slows only when he's safely out of the tunnel, breathing heavily, knowing he's bought himself a small but crucial lead. Jason climbs onto the high-rise rooftop, the wind tugging at his jacket and loose debris rattling underfoot. The skeleton of the building creaks with each step. His health is still at 1%, and every move feels dangerous. Steel beams stretch across gaps, swaying slightly. He tests each step carefully, gripping the edges for balance. A drone buzzes overhead, its light scanning the rooftop. Jason freezes, waiting until it passes before moving forward. He times his jumps carefully, leaping from one crane platform to another. The metal groans under his weight, and loose cables swing dangerously close. He barely clears a gap, landing on a platform with a jolt that makes his chest ache. A guard suddenly appears at the far end, shouting and pointing. Jason reacts instantly, spotting a heavy counterweight attached to a crane. He yanks the release lever. The weight swings violently across the rooftop, hitting the guard and sending him stumbling backward off the platform. Jason doesn't pause to watch. He sprints along the beams, using the swaying crane to cross a final gap, and reaches the edge of the rooftop. He pauses only long enough to catch his breath and assess the next building, every muscle tense, every step calculated. The city stretches below him, the sunset casting long shadows as he moves toward his next challenge. Jason reaches the coastline as the sun dips low, painting the water in orange and gold. Waves lap against the wooden pier where workers move about, unaware of the danger nearby. Cartel boats glide silently across the harbor, their searchlights cutting through the fading light. Jason crouches low, inching forward, every step careful and calculated. Lucia's voice comes through his earpiece, calm and precise. She guides him to a small fishing boat tied at the edge of the pier. Jason moves slowly, crawling across the wooden boards, careful to avoid creaking planks. A loose board suddenly groans under his weight. One worker pauses, turning to look, tension rising. Lucia acts fast, detonating a small string of fireworks in the distance. Bright sparks explode in the sky, drawing the worker's attention. He yells in surprise, pointing toward the fireworks, and Jason slips past unnoticed. He reaches the boat, pushes it off the dock, and climbs aboard. The engine coughs, then roars to life. Jason speeds away from the pier as the last rays of sunlight glint off the water. Behind him, the cartel boats search frantically, but he is already moving out of range, finally safe, still at 1% health.